Hi, I'm Wade Kiser, and welcome to our video of new drags made by Kiser Arena Specialists.
Hi, I'm Bob Kiser, one of the owners of Kiser Arena Specialists. We're going to go over the features and benefits of our new 8 Series drag. The one we're looking at here today is a model 810. The 10 designates the width of the drag, the 8 designates the series or model of the drag. I'm going to start at the front of the drag, work my way back to the back. This one is equipped with a 225-gallon water system. We'll go through that separately towards the end. So the first thing we're going to cover is the hitch. You've got a clevis style hitch on these that has a 2-position adjustment. Next thing we've got here is your holder to hold your hoses. You run all your hoses through this to keep them out of the way of getting caught in something. The next thing we've got is what we call our push blade. This rests in front of the rippers, and what it's intended to do is run in the ground anywhere from a half to 1.5 inches deep. Typically we run those at about 1 inch. And the purpose of that is for one, it'll cut out the big part of your tire track from your tractor, and it levels that ground off. That dirt flows up at an angle over that blade, and it'll level that ground off before it gets to anything else, so that you've got a smooth surface as your footing flows through your drag for the rest of the components to work with. On your leveling blade, you're going to want to remove that when you want to rip your arena. So it's really simple to take off. You only have to pull 3 pins, and you actually don't even have to pull them all the way out. You can pull them out just far enough to get that blade loose. When you get your blade loose, you just stick your pin back through, put the key back in, and you're ready to go. On your ripper points here, you can see this will lift back. These, of course, are replaceable points. They're bolt-on points, not the traditional crimp-on points. So you've just got a 1/4 inch bolt here. You take this nut off, tap that out, knock this tooth off, slide a new tooth on. I'd recommend you use new bolts when you put new teeth on. So you've got a replaceable point that's pretty easy to put on there. What I would probably do is unpin this push blade and take that clear off. It'll make it a little bit easier to replace your ripper points. We move back next to the hydraulic leveling blade. These are designed a lot different than the ones we've had on our previous drags that we built, and they're different than they will be on the larger 10 series that we're coming out with too. What we've done is make this an easier blade to operate. We're using a deeply serrated blade that allows some dirt flow through that, so it's not as hard to operate, because you can run that down to where it's running in the ground a little ways all the time, and your dirt will flow through that. Now, if you got really heavy, sticky dirt, you might have to run it just a little bit shallower. It might not flow quite as much. But with that angle back, like you see here, it allows for easier dirt flow underneath that blade. If you angle that blade straight up and down, it's always pushing and rolling dirt ahead of it. With this, it allows that dirt to work under it. And you have a cylinder underneath there that pushes that blade back and forth. Instead of up and down, it goes forward, it goes deeper. As it comes back, it goes shallower. So as you start to shallow that blade, it allows that dirt to come right back underneath that blade. On our leveling blade also, you can see the cylinder that operates that underneath there. If you look on the right-hand side of that cylinder, you see a little black block, and it's got a silver valve that comes out on it. What that is an adjustment that adjusts the flow of your oil. You can slow that blade down or you can speed it up, however you feel like you want that blade to operate. Pretty simple process that we found is very, very effective. In time, we will offer a laser system on that. Right now we haven't quite got to that point, but we will pretty soon. Next, we're going to look at the tires. We use dual wheels on our drags. That's done for flotation and balance of the drag. That eliminates a lot of this bouncing back and forth. So we're using bar tread tires on it, which we like a little better than the other tread type tires. Couple reasons. It's a little easier to break that tire track up on a bar tread tire, but really the big reason for it is these will not pick up rocks and they don't pack with dirt as bad. Rocks are a big issue with a lot of tires on arena drags because you'll get rocks stuck in the tread if you're pulling your drag across any gravel. And it's like getting dirt on your shoes. You can walk around outside all day with dirt on your shoes, but when you walk in the house, it all falls off. So rocks are the same way inside tires. They'll stay stuck in there till you pull in your arena and then they fall out in your arena. Next, we're going to cover the profile blade. This is a blade that we invented back quite a few years ago because we felt like there was a need for that in a lot of arenas where you had to develop a base and keep all of the track and hoof prints all cut to an even level. And it also helps establish a base in ground that's just a little sandy. We feel like it's a very effective tool. We do offer now a tooth bar, which what that is 2 rows of grooming rods that you can interchange with this. If you feel like you would rather have grooming rods back here other than the profile blade, we offer that as an option, and it's really simple to put in. You can fold this comb, you take this rod out, this comb will fold up. You can see it hinges here. It'll fold up to where you can get to that really easy. Drop that profile blade out, you can slide your tooth bar in there and put it up in there, stick the pins in. It's pretty quick change. Most people will buy that one way or another. It's a matter of preference, what you think is right for your arena. We're happy to help you, guide you through that to what we feel like is the best. But in the past, we've had calls for that, so when we got the chance to redesign this equipment, that's what we've done. The profile blade we feel like is the best for the majority of arenas, but if you've got an arena like maybe a barrel horse arena or something where you don't think the profile blade is the answer for you, now we've got an option for you. It's very easy to change. Again, the blades are in 2 sections. All you have to do is pull these 2 pins out. Those drop down out of there. You slide a new one up in there, put the pins back in, you're ready to go. They're also reversible. So when the front edge starts to wear, you can pull it out, turn it around, put it back up in there, doubles your wear. We're using a heavier gauge blade than we had in the past. These blades will last much longer than the old style ones did. That's also something people have asked for that we've come up with now. So again, now we've got an option. We can put back here what you feel like is right for you. The next part of it is our finishing device, which we call a comb. You kind of see why the way it's done, that's laser cut. And what that does is put a nice lightly grooved finish on your arena. We made that, like I stated before, where that'll fold up and it's spring loaded. We are firm believers that a comb should not be fastened rigid. The reason for that is it's too hard to keep it adjusted at the right pressure, and you either have it to where it doesn't do quite enough or it drags dirt with it. So we've spring loaded ours. Really simple to adjust that. What you've got is a spring on here. You've got a hairpin, they call them, that goes through this rod. When this drag's let down, the spring comes up against there, puts pressure on that. So if you need more pressure, you raise your drag up, pull that pin out, put it a hole down, you've got more pressure on your comb. One of the neatest features we feel like we've came up with this new design on this 8 series is your depth adjustment. I'm going to show you how simple this is to do. For one thing, you walk right up to this and adjust it, compared with our previous design of the equipment that we had, to where you had to crawl over the drag, reach down underneath the tank and try to turn that nut that froze up a lot because water ran down in it. With this one, your cylinder's set in this direction. Very simple to adjust the depth. You adjust the depth with a combination of these collars, depth control collars, and this adjusting nut, which is the most important feature, because here we can adjust the depth of that drag just by turning that nut. So you can walk right around to your drag. If you wanted a little bit deeper, you walk around here, you screw this nut counterclockwise, your drag goes, let your drag down, it's going a little deeper. And you can adjust that drag down a 32nd of an inch at a time if that's what you want to do. You start by putting the collars on here, depth adjustment collars, to get close. Your final adjustment is with this nut. We feel like that's a huge improvement because it's so easy to adjust the depth of your drag now. Another adjustment we've got that's very necessary is your connecting rod that connects from your tongue back to your lift arm cylinder. And what that does is when you start to raise your drag, as that cylinder starts to extend that arm, it pushes down on that, pushes forward and down on the tongue to make the drag raise and lower level it. So when you hook up to your drag and you pull it in your arena, you let it down, and then you adjust this rod until your drag is running level. You want the frame on that drag to be running level with, parallel with the ground. So this rod, you adjust here, you just turn this rod, and as you lengthen that rod, it raises the front of the drag. As you shorten it, it lowers the front of the drag. So that's how you adjust the drag level from front to back. And that has to be done before you use your drag very much. Don't pull in the arena and let your drag down and the front end's going deeper than the back end. These push blades on the front aren't designed to be like a profile blade. They're just a leveling device on the front to level the ground off, not to cut dirt with. The other thing we've got here is a pretty neat little feature. When you get your drag, when it's delivered to you, and you have to unload that, you have to use forks on a forklift or on a tractor to lift this off a trailer. What we've got is some fork pockets right here, one on each side of the drag. You run your forks in here, and then they go under that bar right there. So it makes it easy just to drive in there, pick the drag up, back off the trailer and set it down. When you get it, the tongue will be folded up. This rod will be separate from the drag. It won't be in this position because it has to come out to be able to fold the tongue up. So your tongue will be folded up. This rod will be on the trailer separate. So what you do is you set the drag down on the ground, and you connect the back of the rod then you connect the front, and you can do that by actually turning this rod to get it to the position that you want it. We do want to cover the hydraulics on it. The 8 Series Drags requires 2 sets of remote hydraulics. When I say 2 sets of remotes, a set is 2 outlets, which requires 2 hoses. You've got a return and an input hose here. So you have to have actually 4 ports on the back of your tractor to run these drags. So when you get your new 8 Series Drags, you want to hook these hoses up. We don't mark these hoses because we don't know how you'll want them paired, but once you get them in the right position, the way you want them, I would recommend that you color code them. We use little zip ties. We color code them so we've got, let's say, a red here and a red there. We've got a blue over here and a blue there. So we go through it so that when you go to hook those up, you know exactly which port they go in, so you don't have to guess. When we hook them up, generally we make it to where when you pull a lever back, it raises. When you push it forward, it lowers it. Next, we're going to cover the water system. The 8 Series has a 225-gallon water tank on it. So we use a Hypro 1700C pump, which is a very established pump. We've used them for 25 years. Very reliable pump, easy to prime. They're easy enough that I'll show you how to do that. First thing you do, of course, is you've got a coupler here that releases that. You pull back on that, pull back on your drag, it comes off your power takeoff. You do have to tie this arm, which is called a torque arm. You have to tie that down to your drawbar. If you don't, what happens is, first time you start that pump, that thing's gonna go around like that and wrap your hoses up. You're gonna have a really bad mess. So make sure you always tie your torque arm down like that. And when you go to prime your pump, we've made this really simple. You put water in your tank. You've got a on-off valve right here. As with any valve, open on a valve, the handle is turned in the direction of the water flow. So with that valve turned that way, this valve is open. If you want to shut it, you turn it a quarter turn, so the handle's sticking out this way. Now your valve's shut. So you put some water in your tank, open this valve, shut this valve, which is a bypass valve, and then you take this little quick coupler right here, you just take that loose. You can pull it almost all the way off. You leave that off until water starts running out of this. Then you couple it back, crack your bypass valve open just a little bit, start your pump, and water will start coming out of your nozzles. Now it does take 10 pounds of pressure to open these diaphragms to where water comes out. And when you first start this up, it might take a minute to get all the air out of everything to where both nozzles spray and they spray a full stream. What you do have to have is at least 1,500 RPMs of engine speed to get those to spray like they should. You can't run, if you idle your tractor down, you might lose enough pressure here that one will shut off. Because these valves are made to where there's a rubber disc inside here. And as that water pressure hits that, and it gets 10 pounds of pressure, it pushes that rubber disc open, which allows the water to come out the nozzle. The minute you turn your power takeoff off, of course that diaphragm loses pressure, so it goes shut. So that means that that nozzle, the minute you turn your power takeoff on and off, which that's the way you start the pump and start your water to flow, is with your power takeoff. The minute you shut that power takeoff off, that disc goes shut, water quits coming out. If you get any foreign material in your tank, and a lot of times that's caused by people that have tried to fill them with a garden hose through the top of the tank. They pick their garden hose up off the ground, it's covered with sand, stick it in their tank. They get sand in their tank. You get some grains of sand in there against that diaphragm, it can't seal. So what you'll see then is water dripping out your nozzle. When you see that, that means your diaphragm's not seated very well. To fix that, you take a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen these 4 screws. Sometimes you can just loosen them, let some water run out, tighten them back up, and it'll go. If you have to take that diaphragm off, then make sure you shut this valve and your bypass valve, or a lot of water will come out. What we typically do, take those 4 screws off, this cap comes off, that little rubber disc, the diaphragm in it, we take those, take them off, we'll crack that valve open a little bit so some water runs through there, kind of wash that out. Put the disc back in, put that plate back on, just be careful you get your diaphragm seated right in there. You'll be ready to go. Turn your water on, you're set to go. This is your bypass valve here. This is what you control the pressure at your nozzles with. If you have it clear open, you'll lose pressure to your nozzles. So if you want to adjust that pressure, you just start to shut it till you, with your tractor speed where you want it, and shut it till you get the desired pressure. What you're shooting for here is to get that to spray out just a little bit past the edge of the drag on the outside, and then it'll spray to the center on the inside. On these tanks, as will be the case with all of our models, we will have a garden hose fill on these. What we do, this one of course isn't attached to the garden hose, but we've got a quick coupler. You screw your garden hose right into this end and you just leave this end on your garden hose. When you get ready to hook it up, you don't have to screw your garden hose on. You push that in there, push those 2 little cam locks, you're in business. The other thing we've got is a sight gauge, which is visible from the tractor. You can see right now our water level's right there. So you can watch that fill to tell when it's getting pretty full. But one thing you don't have to do is worry about overfilling it, because inside this tank, you can't see it, but is a float valve. What that does, when that water reaches a level right in here, it'll start pushing that float valve shut and shut this water off so that you don't overfill your tank and run water everywhere. One last thing I want to point out to you. When you buy equipment from Kiser, you're buying equipment that's designed to be trusted.